everybody. This is Dr. Regina Bradley, and this is Outkasted Conversations, lucky number 13. We got with us the one, the only, the legendary Mr. Maurice Garland, Southern hip hop journalist extraordinaire. What's going on, good sir?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So you got to answer the question to get into the club. How did you become outcasted?
You know what? It's like the first time I became a fan was, I was at home watching Rap City. I don't remember if I skipped school that day or what, but I was on the couch watching Rap City, and the Players Ball video came on. It was like the first time I saw it, I caught like the second half of the video. I didn't see the whole video, but I saw enough to know like, okay, damn, these dudes are riding down I-20. They posted up outside the strip club Montrez. They rolled past the Long John Silver's on Counter Road. I was like, damn, there's somebody from here rapping. And then like the very next day, they showed the video again. I saw the whole thing, and I was like, yo, man, these dudes are like from here. And I just got intrigued from that point. And then my cousin, I wasn't old enough to buy my own rap music at that time. I was like 13 or whatever. But my cousin, I used to ride around with him all the time, and he ended up buying the tape, and we were riding around listening to it. And from that moment on, that's when I became outcast.
Oh, I ain't mad at that. So I mean, like, so you're from the A. You know what I'm saying? So what was it? What was the vibe like when Outkast was first kind of getting put on? Like, what I'm saying? What was the vibe going on? Were they feeling them like that?
You know what, man? It's like some people were, some people weren't, because it was a thing where, of course, some people are happy to see somebody, from their city get put on, especially at that time, because, you was either in Wu-Tang or you was signed to Death Row. And, there really wasn't no in between. I mean, yeah, well, yeah, you had like rap a lot. You had Scarface and Ghetto Boys and everything. But, it was very, dominated. It wasn't too much Atlanta rap in the national conversation. So you had some people that were happy to see that. But then at the same time, you also had some people that just looked at them as some local dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, man, they local. I guess they all right. So you had a lot of that going on, too. So I would say it was split as far as, like, from what I can see. Years later when you talk to certain industry people, they'll say, oh, no, man, they love them everywhere. And then you can ask some people that are in the dungeon, like, no, we had to go to Chicago, Detroit, New York, and all these other places to actually get some love, and then we came back and people loved us, But like from my vantage point, it seemed to be kind of split. You had some people that were happy to see some guys from the city get on, and you had some folks that were just like, oh man, these just some dudes down the street, man. Ain't nobody sweating them.
I mean, like, but why do you think, you know what I'm saying? Why do you feel like people kind of romanticize, like, oh, everybody from Atlanta and South love Outkast, and that wasn't necessarily, that ain't what happened?
Well, I mean, because after that point, everybody did love them. I'm talking about as far as like when Southern Playlist like first came out. It's like by the time ATLians and Aquemini and everything started coming out, it was like it was official. Like everybody in the city loved them. By that point. But like when they first came out, from what I could see, it was kind of split down the middle. Because that was also a time where you had a lot of people, moving here from other places. So they didn't really have no connection to it. They didn't really have no reason to identify to it. They were still on whatever they was on before they moved to Atlanta. So, that's what I saw. That's why I see and say when I talk about that split down the middle. But like by the time ATLians came out and everybody knew that they was authentic, they was really from here, they could be vouched for. You had people in your neighborhood saying, "Oh, I went to school with Buddy." Or, said, oh, I used to stay next door to them. Like, okay, so they're for real. They ain't just some guys that just, popped up in the studio somewhere and said, all right, we're going to act like we from here, So, like, but so when you see Outkast get romanticized, like, it is real, but it's like when the album first came out, it wasn't necessarily the case.
Yo, so school us a little bit on what made you decide to be a journalist. Like, what made you like I have to cover hip hop? Was it Southern hip hop or was it just hip hop in general?
Yeah, as far as becoming a journalist, like I actually got forced into it. Like I was, doing radio. I wanted to be, like a DJ. I was a DJ when I was in college. I was the PD for the campus radio station. It's funny because like I went to Fort Valley State University.
Ooh.
And like there's a few people that's out now, that's actually doing their thing. I went to school with that dude, Shawty Slim. He's like B.O.B's DJ now. DJ Holiday went to Fort Valley. Hell, that dude, Sir Foster, that's blowing up now, the Hawks organist. Like, he went to Fort Valley. So, like, it was a bunch of us down there, like, so, like, I was on the radio station. That's what I wanted to do. And by the time I was about to graduate, the dean of the department told me, oh, yeah, you did a good job while you was here, but, you never wrote for the school newspaper. And if you want to graduate on time and get credit, you got to start writing for the school newspaper. And this is like the year I'm supposed to graduate. So I'm like, damn, we're going to wait till now to tell me this. So I just started writing just for school credit. I didn't really want to do it. I was just, all right, man, I'm just going to write this little article or whatever for the school paper, and y'all leave me alone. But, since I was doing radio stuff, they let me, write music reviews. Like, the first ever article I wrote was a CD review on that Mary J. Blige album, No More Drama. And that was like the first ever article I ever wrote. And it came out cool. And then, like, they let me start just writing all the CD reviews. I was writing CD reviews on, like, the UGK Dirty Money album. I think Jermaine Dupri had a CD out around that year. And that's what I started doing. I started getting the hang of it. And they were like, no, you're pretty good. You should stick at it. So I started writing about the football team at the school. And I started writing about, shady stuff that I saw going on in the administration. You know what I'm saying? I turned into Eyewitness News on their ass for a minute. So I started kind of liking it. But I was still always wanting to do radio, though. So that was still always my thing. Because I was, so I was coming back to Atlanta in the summers and in the holiday vacations to, intern at Hot 97.5 at the time. So that's what I still wanted to do. But, when I graduated, the first paid opportunity that came along was in journalism. I was still interning, and they was pretty much like, hey, man, we like you and all, but we ain't really hiring. And so I had a cool little portfolio by that time of, newspaper clippings for writing for, like, local magazines down there around Fort Valley and Macon and Middle Georgia. And I got my first job at Rolling Out. That was, like, my first job. And, like, that was a trip, too, because when I started there, they hired me on a Tuesday after, like, a little probationary period. They hired me on a Tuesday. They were like, hey, man, you got the job if you want it. When can you start? And I'm like, well, shit, I can start tomorrow. And they're like, all right, cool, man. We need you to go to Cleveland, Ohio in the morning. So just go home, pack a bag, and meet us at the airport tomorrow morning. Like, I ain't know anybody that worked there or anything. So that's pretty much my, how I got into journalism story.
No, that's crazy. I mean, I went to Albany State, so I got a little bit of shade for you, but but it's all good. Shouts out to Foster and all them cool cats from Fort Valley. Got nothing but love for y'all. But let me ask you this: so, from a journalist perspective, I mean, what's the significance of thinking about Outkast 20 years later? Like, how is the journalistic edge or the way that we write about them different than when them boys were actually, like, still cranking out albums?
I think, while they were putting out music, like, the first album, a lot of people kind of approach it on some oh, wow, there's some guys from Atlanta that can actually rap, like, they speak so well, and then by the time ATLiens came out, I remember a lot of the critics kind of throwing shade at the album saying, oh, they sound lost on this album. It's not as good as the last one. Some of this stuff sounds weird. What's going on? And, like, that's actually my personal favorite out of all their albums, ATLiens. But I remember a lot of critics throwing shade at that album. And then, of course, when Aquemini came out, there was pretty much, like, crowned kings of hip hop at that point. And then, with Stankonia, they kind of hit everybody with another, left jab again. And folks were like, for a journalistic standpoint, like, it kind of changed each album, because, like, you think that you knew what they was going to do, and they come out with something completely different, and you had to write about them in a completely different way, so they never really allowed you to, put them in any kind of box. Because, a lot of, journalists and critics and everything, when they write on a subject, they almost kind of write from a place that's comfortable for them. Mm-hmm. They like to pigeonhole you so they can say, well, I'm the person that said this, and they used my quote as the pull quote for the headline. You know what I'm saying? So, but with them, so many times when they came up with the albums, even Speaker Boss Love Below, nobody ever did that before. So they always force people to change how they talked about them every time out. So like now it's drastically different because they haven't released any new music in what 10 years. I guess you can count Idlewild. I guess you can count Idlewild, but they haven't released music in a long time. So like, of course, now you can talk about them from like a historian standpoint, just time wise. But did I answer the question at all?
Yeah, I mean, like, cause I guess
Okay.
what I'm thinking about is, you know what I'm saying, like, especially with the shift in the actual media, you know what I mean, like, print culture isn't
Oh
really
yeah,
popping
yeah.
off in a way that, you know what I'm saying, you can log on to something like SoundCloud or All Hip Hop or MauriceGarland.com. You see how I did that plug there? And actually like catch up on what's going on. So I guess that's what I was thinking is like, with the shift in how we actually understand what journalism looks like, is there a loss in the importance of, what Outkast contributed?
Yeah, because like right now, you see a lot of what's being written about them, and you could tell that the content is being produced by people that may not have been writing when they was making music.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that you can't be a fan back then and still have something productive to say or whatever, but you can tell that a lot of the content that's being put out is being put out by people where it's like they kind of started at Miss Jackson and that's their reference point, and then they'll go back and look up stuff just because they have to do their research. But you can kind of tell like, okay, they weren't around when Southern Playalistic dropped, you know what I'm saying? They weren't there. They weren't coming of age when they first heard the term ATLian, they didn't recognize the significance of the whole player and the poet dynamic of Aquemini. That they kind of started at Stankonia, okay, they started at the Grammy, and
Mm.
from there, you know what I'm saying? So you can kind of tell that with some of the content that's being, put out.
It makes me think about, so I don't know if you was at Counterpoint this past Sunday. I was at Counterpoint.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about like not just the journalistic, integrity itself, but also the audience. You know what I'm saying? Like when people were talking about the lukewarm response to Coachella, a lot of those folks probably started where you said, started in 2000 with Stankonias or the Love Below. What do you think? Did you sense that there was a particular type of, acknowledgement of who Outkast was at Counterpoint? Do you think that the atmosphere was a little bit different?
Well, I was living vicariously because I take care of some family stuff, so I didn't make it up there. But from what I could see from as far as the reactions of my friends, and I haven't gotten around to reading all of the media reviews, but it does seem like that crowd in particular is the crowd where it's like, okay, we know that this is the greatest rap group of all time. We know what we're witnessing right now. These aren't just some guys that had a few hit songs. You know what I'm saying? These are some guys that like really speak for a culture. They speak for a city. They speak for a mind state. They're not just, oh yeah, those the guys. That's the group with the guy that wore the wig, and they had this song on the radio that I liked, and I heard that they were making a comeback, so I figured I'd check them out. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's dope. And then, kind of close out the conversation. What do you think is the significance of having folks like you, Charlie Braxton, these folks who've been there for a minute to actually continue to write about Southern hip hop?
What do I think our significance is?
Yeah, why? I mean, like, why is it important to still have a Southern voice talk about
Oh,
Southern hip
because
hop?
you gotta hear from somebody that's living it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't really always trust what a person has to say if they weren't there to experience it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like you trying to ask advice on where to get something to eat from a tourist.
Mm.
It's like if you visiting some new city or some new country, you're gonna want to hear from a person that's lived there. You're not gonna ask another tourist, hey man, where's the best food at? Because they're gonna have a limited point of view. I mean, they can read every Zagat review they want. They can go on Yelp all they want, but they're not going to be able to give you a accurate, authentic portrayal of the whatever situation that you're in. So yeah, so you definitely need writers and journalists and things like that that have lived those experiences, that were there when these things were happening, and not just doing research. Not that anything's wrong with research, but I mean, there's no better research than, living the experience yourself,
Hmm.
you know.
I ain't mad at that. So, Mr. Garland, how can people reach out to you? What you got going on with your life?
Also, they can, hit me up on Twitter as usual, Maurice underscore Garland, Instagram, Maurice Garland. I want to plug something new I'm working on. I have a new website called The Fix, spelled with 3 I's, so it's TheFiix.com. And, over there I'm covering, like technology and, education and, community service stuff, man. Trying to put some more positive images out there, man. I'm tired of seeing folks getting beat down on World Star every day, man. Trying to, put some other stuff out there, man. Have something quote unquote positive and informative to share on Facebook, not just rumors and garbage, you know what I'm saying? So
I ain't mad at that. Maurice Garland, appreciate you for hollering at us, bruh. I'm Dr. Regina Bradley. This is Outkast Conversations. We'll holler at y'all next week. Y'all be easy.